He saved 2 dying Apache women, but had no idea their arrival would break his rules forever. Cole Harding rode his hover horse along the cracked red sands of the mining outpost. Red Dust Station hung like a rusted jewel in orbit around the planet's barren surface. The sun was a dim orange ball behind the dusty sky, and the wind carried tiny shards of rock that scraped against his boots and cloak. He was a man of rules. On this frontier, a marshal's rules were law. His first rule: never involve himself in the affairs of strangers. His second: never show weakness. His third: always survive. Cole's reputation had been built on these rules. People whispered about the gunslinger who could hit a target at 300 meters with a spinning plasma revolver. They said he was cold, unshakable, and impossible to fool. He liked it that way.
Emotions were dangerous. Attachments were dangerous.
And chaos was chaos. It was everywhere on Red Dust, but Cole had learned to ignore it, to ride through it without leaving a mark. Today, though, chaos came to him in a shape he had not expected. A distant flare lit the sky, a red spark against the orange haze. Cole squinted and tugged the reins of his hover horse, moving closer. The station's sensors had not picked it up. It was small, almost invisible, a tiny escape pod, tumbling through the thin atmosphere. Smoke trailed from its sides, and it spun as though it had been caught in a storm. Cole's instincts screamed at him to leave it alone. He should ride past, let the pod crash and burn, and pretend he had seen nothing. That was what his rules demanded. But something in the pod drew him closer. Something alive. The pod smashed into the cracked metal floor of the landing bay with a screeching impact, sparks flying. Cole leapt from his hover horse, boots clanging against the metal plating. The air was thick with smoke and ozone, and he could barely see through the haze. Inside the pod, 2 figures moved, weakly, struggling to lift themselves. Cole's breath caught. They were women. Their clothing was strange, tattered, and their faces were streaked with ashen blood. Without a word, Cole ran forward, ignoring the heat and danger. He pried the pod open, careful of the jagged metal. One woman slumped forward, unconscious, while the other tried to crawl toward him, coughing violently. Her eyes were wide with panic. Cole's rulebook would have said, "Leave them." Survival first, but the human part of him, the part he thought dead, forced him to act. He lifted the first woman into his arms, her body lighter than he expected. Then he grabbed the second, guiding her toward the medbay. The medbay was small, a cramped room with sterile white walls and flickering lights. It smelled faintly of antiseptic and oil. Cole set the woman down on 2 narrow beds. One was unconscious, her breathing shallow, lips blue. The other was trembling, trying to speak, but only weak whispers came out. Cole pulled a small device from his belt, a medkit with nanotech bandages and stimulators. He worked quickly, sealing burns, injecting antitoxins, and monitoring vitals. The room was silent except for the women's shallow breaths and the hum of the medbay systems. Cole's mind raced. Who were they? Where had they come from? And why did he feel a strange chill as he looked at their faces, pale but striking? There was something unusual about them, something he couldn't identify. Their eyes, they glowed faintly under the medlight, a soft amber hue that pulsed with life. It made him step back for a moment, though he did not allow himself to panic. "Stay still," he muttered to the trembling woman, who tried to sit up. "You're safe now. I'm going to help you." Her voice was broken, but the translator implanted in her throat began decoding. Cole listened carefully as the words came through, haltingly. We need the key." Cole froze. The key. He had heard rumors in the station. A hidden relic buried somewhere in the deserts below Red Dust. Something ancient, something powerful. But it had been dismissed as legend, a story for miners at night while they drank cheap synth whiskey. It had never touched him. And yet now, with these women staring at him with those glowing eyes, the story seemed frighteningly real. "Key?" Cole asked, keeping his voice steady. "What key?" "Who are you?" the woman gasped, her chest trembling. "Star? Spirits protect. Must." The words were fragmented, but the urgency was clear. Her companion remained unconscious, but the light in her eyes was growing stronger, pulsing with a rhythm almost like a heartbeat. Cole stepped back, weighing his options. The law, his rules demanded that he report this, that he leave these strangers to the station authorities. But the other part, the part buried under years of dust and solitude, urged him to act. He couldn't leave them. He wouldn't. Hours passed. The women slowly regained consciousness. They spoke more through the translator now, revealing fragments of a story that sounded impossible. They had escaped from a distant prison ship orbiting a dying star. They were descendants of an ancient line, tied to powers that could shape the galaxy. They sought the key, something hidden on Red Dust Station. Cole listened, skeptical but unable to ignore the truth in their voices. Meanwhile, the station around them remained oblivious. Merchants and miners went about their business, unaware of the small drama unfolding in the medbay. Cole kept the doors locked, scanning for anyone who might come searching. He knew he had broken the rules. He had saved these women when he should have left them to fate. And already he could feel the first ripple of consequence, like a distant storm approaching. By the time night fell over Red Dust Station, the women were sitting up. One of them reached for Cole's hand, not aggressively, but with a silent plea for trust. He felt an unusual warmth, something he had not felt in years. Protecting them was no longer about rules or law, it was instinct, raw, and human. Then the first alarm sounded, a faint electronic buzz that echoed through the medbay. Cole's heart tightened. He scanned the monitors. Something, or someone, was approaching. Outside, the sensors picked up a small fleet of fast-moving ships. Hunters. They were coming, drawn by the escape pod signal. Cole's pulse quickened. He had made a choice, and that choice had put him directly in the path of danger. He turned to the women. "We have to move," he said, his voice low but firm. "They're coming for you." The woman who had been awake nodded, fear and determination mingling in her glowing eyes. We cannot fail," she said. "The key, it cannot fall into the wrong hands." Cole swallowed hard. He had no idea what this key was, or why it mattered. All he knew was that he had crossed a line. He had broken the rules he had lived by for decades. And for the first time in his life, he didn't regret it. The medbay lights flickered, casting long shadows on the walls. Cole looked at the two women, and then at the approaching danger. He realized that nothing would ever be the same. His rules, his life, his solitude, all of it had been shattered by their arrival. Outside, the red sands of the station glowed under the twin suns, quiet for now, but ready to erupt into chaos. Cole tightened his grip on his plasma revolver, feeling its familiar weight. He had no plan, no allies, no guarantees. All he had was the choice to protect them, or to fail. And for the first time in a long time, Cole Harding rode not for law, not for survival, but for something bigger. Something he could not yet understand. Something that had come to him in a small, burning escape pod, carrying two dying women and a secret that would change the frontier forever. Cole Harding's hover horse waited at the edge of the medbay, its engine humming softly. Outside, Red Dust Station glimmered under the twin suns. Quiet for now, but danger was closing fast. The hunters were not far. Cole could feel it in his bones, a cold warning that danger was coming from every corner of the frontier. He turned to the women, whose glowing eyes now held more clarity than fear. Their bodies were still weak, but their spirits were strong. One of them, taller, with hair like dark silk, spoke through the translator device. "We must reach the desert before they find us," she said. Her voice was calm but urgent. "The key, it cannot fall." "The desert? You mean below the station? There's nothing there but sand and rocks, and you call that a plan?" The woman's eyes narrowed. "The key is hidden there. If we fail, everything ends. Not just us, the stars themselves." Cole's stomach tightened. He had lived through years of frontier chaos, through lawless planets and corrupt mining guilds, but something in her words made him shiver. The stars themselves? That was bigger than any fight he had ever faced.
He made a decision. There was no time to waste.
He led them out of the medbay, down the long corridors of Red Dust Station. The air vents whistled, and the lights flickered. Cole checked every corner, every shadow. The hunters would arrive soon, and if they were not careful, the station would become a battlefield. As they reached the cargo bay, Cole signaled the women to stay low. He pushed a crate aside, revealing a small, old cargo ship. It was battered, with patches of rust on the hull, but it still had enough fuel to escape the station. Cole knew every inch of it. He had used it before for quick getaways. "Get in," he said. The taller woman helped the weaker one climb aboard, their movements slow but determined. Cole followed, his plasma revolver at the ready. The cargo doors slid open, revealing the red desert below. Cole fired a warning shot into the air, and sparks rained down, catching the attention of a patrol hovering near the station gates. It was a gamble, but it worked. The patrol scrambled, giving Cole and the women a few precious seconds. The engines roared as the cargo ship lifted off. The red desert stretched beneath them, endless and harsh. Dust and rocks shimmered in the sunlight, creating the illusion of waves on a burning sea. Cole adjusted the controls, plotting a course toward the hidden desert temple the women had mentioned. Inside the ship, the women sat silently for a moment, catching their breath. Cole glanced at them. I don't know what this key is or why it's so important, but if someone's hunting you, I guess it's real enough. Tell me what I need to know. The woman with dark hair nodded. We are descendants of the star spirits, she said. They protected the universe. Long ago they hid the key so no one could misuse it. We carry their blood. Only our line can activate it. The hunters, they wanted to control worlds, to destroy balance. That is why we cannot fail. Star spirits, universe, bloodlines. It sounded like the ramblings of frontier legends, stories drunk miners told each other in the heat of the night. Yet the glow in her eyes, the urgency in her voice, and the feeling of something larger than himself pressed on him like gravity. He believed her, at least enough to trust her for now. The weaker woman reached out her hand and Cole placed his on hers. There was a spark, not electric, but alive, almost magnetic. He shook off the feeling. He didn't have time for bonds, not now. Survival came first. The desert planet below stretched endlessly. Sand dunes rose and fell like mountains, hiding ancient secrets beneath. Cole had flown across it many times before, but today, every shadow seemed alive. Every ridge and crater could hide an enemy. Hours passed as the cargo ship skimmed low across the desert, avoiding station sensors and patrols. Cole guided them silently, his eyes scanning the horizon. He could feel the hunters drawing closer. Their ships were faster, more advanced, but Cole had something they didn't. Knowledge of the terrain, instincts honed over years of frontier survival, and the determination to protect these two women. Night fell, and the desert turned silver under twin moons. Cole landed the cargo ship in a hidden canyon, far from any known routes. He checked the women. They were exhausted but alert. The glowing in their eyes had faded to a soft pulse, as if they were conserving energy for something greater. Rest here, he said. They'll be looking for us soon. The taller woman shook her head. We cannot rest. The key, we are close. If we delay, the hunters may reach it first. They will not show mercy. Cole's jaw tightened. He had rules about exposure, about taking risks, about ignoring emotions. But those rules were useless now. He had crossed the line when he saved them, and there was no turning back. He helped them gather supplies from the cargo hold, water, rations, tools, and a few weapons he had kept for emergencies. The weaker woman held a small, carved device, a star map, old and fragile, etched with symbols that glowed faintly in the dark. Cole did not understand it, but he knew it was important. The next day, they moved out on foot, across the dunes and ridges of the red desert. Cole led, keeping an eye on the horizon, while the women followed closely. Their steps were cautious but determined. Every now and then, the taller woman paused, consulting the star map, tracing a route that only she could read. Sandstorms rose without warning, and the heat of the twin suns was almost unbearable. Cole's skin burned under his cloak and his throat was dry, but he ignored it. Survival depended on focus, on staying alive long enough to reach the key. By mid-afternoon, they spotted a strange formation on the horizon. Massive stone pillars, half buried in the sand, glowing faintly with an alien light. Cole felt a chill. He had seen old ruins in the desert before, relics of lost civilizations, but these pillars were different. They hummed softly, almost like they were alive. The taller woman's eyes widened.
The temple, it is close.
The key, it is here. Cole nodded, but his instincts screamed danger. Hunters were still out there. They would not give up. And whatever power this key held, it was worth killing for. He adjusted his plasma revolver, checking the ammo and energy charge. He was ready. As they approached the pillars, movement flickered in the distance, small, fast shapes skimming the dunes. Scouts. Cole signaled the women to hide behind a ridge. He watched carefully. The hunters were close, their ships casting long shadows on the red sand. They were looking for something, or someone, and Cole had no doubt it was them.
He whispered to the taller woman.
Stay quiet. Don't move. I'll handle this. The hunters' scouts landed near the canyon, their armor glinting in the sunlight. Cole drew a deep breath, relying on years of experience, and fired his plasma revolver in a precise arc. Sparks flew as the first scout fell. Others ducked behind rocks, scanning for him. Cole moved, using the terrain, keeping his shots accurate, his breathing steady. The women stayed low, watching, learning. Cole realized that this fight was just the beginning. The hunters were skilled, relentless, and organized. If they survived today, they would pursue them across planets, across moons, across the stars. Hours passed. The scouts were driven back, their numbers reduced, but Cole knew more were coming. He motioned to the women. "We move now, before they regroup." The taller woman nodded, clutching the star map. "The temple is not far. We must reach it before nightfall." Cole led the way, through jagged rocks and sand dunes, keeping low and fast. The desert was alive with shadows, with the unseen, with whispers of power that seemed to emanate from the ground itself. Every step was tense, every breath measured. By sunset, the temple's entrance appeared, a massive archway carved into a cliff face, glowing faintly with the same alien light as the pillars. Cole felt a surge of relief, tempered by caution. They were close, yes, but the hunters would not give up. They would follow. And the key itself was waiting. The women looked at him, their expressions a mixture of hope and fear. Cole realized he had broken his rules completely. He had saved them, risked his life, and now stood on the edge of something he could not fully understand. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "we get inside, we survive. And then we deal with the rest." The taller woman's eyes glowed softly. "We will survive. The key, it is ours to protect." Cole tightened his grip on his plasma revolver. The desert stretched endlessly before them, red and burning, alive with secrets and danger. He had no idea what lay ahead inside the temple, no idea of the power the key held, but one thing was certain. The frontier had changed forever, and he had chosen to be part of it. Outside, the last light of day faded, and the desert became a shadowed maze. The hunters' distant engines roared faintly, a warning that the real battle was yet to come. Cole looked at the women, and for the first time in years, he did not feel alone. He felt responsible. And in the silence of the twin moons rising over red dust, the stars above seemed to whisper, "Rules are made to be broken, but some choices will echo across the universe." The desert night was cold and unforgiving. Twin moons cast silver light over the jagged rocks, making shadows that twisted like living creatures. Cole Harding moved silently, guiding the two women toward the temple's entrance. Every step brought him closer to the unknown, yet further from the rules he had lived by his entire life. They crouched behind a low ridge, the glow of the alien temple archway ahead pulsing softly like a heartbeat. The taller woman, her dark hair blowing in the wind, studied the star map once more. "The temple is alive," she whispered. "It will sense us if we make a mistake." Cole frowned. "Sense us? How?" Her glowing eyes met his. "It is tied to the key. Only the bloodline can move safely inside. Any intruder will trigger traps, or worse." Cole's jaw tightened. He was a man of action, not legends. He had faced rogue AI, bandits with plasma rifles, and even collapsing mining stations. But the idea that a building itself could fight them made his pulse quicken. He motioned for them to move. Step by step, they approached the temple, keeping low and careful. The air was still almost electric, and Cole felt the hairs on his neck rise. Something watched them. Something beyond human. Suddenly, the quiet was broken. Engines roared over the desert dunes, echoing against the cliffs. The hunters had arrived. Cole's pulse spiked. He glanced at the women. Their eyes glowed brighter now, alert and tense. "They are fast," Cole said. "They'll be inside the temple in minutes if we don't act. We cannot fight them outside. The temple, it protects those inside. If we reach it, we can use the key safely." Cole's hands tightened around his plasma revolver. He had rules against involving others, against risking himself needlessly. But those rules were gone. He had broken them the moment he saved these women. And now he would break them further. The hunters landed on the sands, armor glinting under the moons. They were organized, moving with precision, scanning for any sign of life. Cole fired a warning shot, sparks arcing across the rocks. The hunters ducked behind cover, returning fire. Plasma bolts hissed through the night, striking stone and sand. Cole moved like a shadow, firing and ducking, guiding the women behind him. They were learning quickly, though their bodies were still weak. He could see determination in their eyes. This was no longer just survival. It was a mission, one that would echo across the galaxy. "Keep moving!" Cole shouted. "We're almost there!" The women scrambled, clutching the star map tightly. The weaker woman stumbled, and Cole caught her, lifting her onto his shoulder. He ignored the heat of the plasma blasts that scorched the sand around them. One wrong move, and they could all die here. As they neared the temple entrance, the ground trembled slightly. The glow from the archway intensified, sending waves of light across the desert. Cole felt a strange energy pull at him, almost like the temple was alive, aware of their presence. He kept moving, forcing his fear aside. The hunters were closing in. One of them raised a plasma rifle, aiming directly at Cole. Cole fired, hitting the weapon and causing it to explode in sparks. The hunter yelped and ducked, but others were advancing. The taller woman held out her hands. Light pulsed from her palms, and a faint barrier formed around the temple entrance. Cole froze for a moment, awe mixing with urgency. "What are you doing?" he asked. "The key protects us," she said. "We must reach the temple. It will shield us from them, if we succeed." Cole nodded. He had no choice. He pushed the women toward the entrance. As they crossed the threshold, the temple seemed to come alive. Stones shifted, walls moved slightly, and energy pulsed through the air. The hunters stopped at the edge of the glow, unable to enter. The temple rejected them. Inside, the temple was vast, with walls etched in alien symbols and lights that pulsed like a living organism. Cole's eyes widened. He had seen advanced tech, but nothing like this. The air was thick with energy, and every step they took echoed with a soft hum. The taller woman led the way, following the star map's guidance. They descended into a central chamber, where a pedestal glowed with a soft golden light. A small device rested atop it, the key. It was delicate, yet powerful, radiating energy that made Cole's hair stand on end. "The key," the taller woman whispered. "Only one of us can activate it. My bloodline—" Cole stepped forward instinctively. "Then we protect you. No one else gets close." The weaker woman nodded, gripping his arm. "It is dangerous. If the hunters enter, the temple will respond. They will not survive." Cole didn't need to be told twice. He positioned himself near the entrance, plasma revolver ready, eyes scanning for any movement. Outside, the red desert was silent, the hunters still at the edge of the glowing barrier. The night was tense, almost unbearable. Then, a strange vibration ran through the temple. Symbols along the walls flared bright, and the key pulsed more intensely. The taller woman placed her hands on the device. Energy surged, flowing through her like a river of light. Cole felt a wave hit him, but he stood firm, shielding the weaker woman. The hunters outside screamed, their ships buffeted by the temple's energy. Sparks and energy bolts erupted, sending dust and debris into the air. Cole fired at anyone who tried to get close. But the temple itself did most of the work. It was as if the building was alive, responding to the key and the bloodline protecting it. Inside, the taller woman's eyes glowed brighter than ever. She began chanting, a melodic sound that seemed to resonate with the very walls. Cole watched, awestruck. He had never seen anything like this. Energy rippled through the temple, creating shields and barriers, cutting off every possible path for the hunters. The weaker woman clutched the star map. "It's working. The key is awakening. But the hunters, they won't give up. They will try again. And stronger." Cole nodded, understanding the stakes. He had broken his rules to save them, and now the frontier itself demanded that he stay and fight no matter the cost. Hours passed inside the temple. Cole patrolled the entrance, making sure no one slipped past the barrier. The women worked with the key, activating symbols, tracing lines of energy, and unlocking its secrets. Cole realized that this was more than a fight for survival. It was a test of will, trust, and courage. Finally, the taller woman turned to him. "Cole Harding, you have broken every rule you lived by, yet you are here. You have protected us, and in doing so, you have changed fate." "I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't leave you out there." She smiled faintly. "And that is why you are here."
The key senses hearts, not just blood.
You are part of this now. The hunters will not succeed. Not as long as we stand together." Cole felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had always believed rules were meant to protect, to guide, but now he understood. Some rules were meant to be broken, if it meant protecting life, hope, and something greater than yourself. Outside, the hunters regrouped, their ships forming a tight formation against the temple's barrier. Cole could hear the engines and see the glow of their weapons, ready to strike again. He gritted his teeth and readied his revolver. There would be no easy victory, no retreat. The fight for the key, for survival, and for the future of the stars was only beginning. The temple pulsed, the key glowed, and the women chanted. Cole stood at the threshold, vigilant and determined. For the first time in years, he felt alive. not as a lone marshal, not as a rule-bound survivor, but as a protector. And in the silence between the pulsing energy and the approaching threat, Cole Harding realized something he had never admitted to himself. Rules could guide a man, but courage and choice defined him. The hunters would come again, and when they did, the frontier would burn. The temple thrummed with energy, golden light spilling from the walls, casting shadows that danced like living spirits. Cole Harding stood at the threshold, plasma revolver ready, while the two women focused on the key. The air inside smelled of ozone and strange minerals, a scent that prickled his skin. Every pulse of energy from the key made the ground vibrate beneath their feet. Outside, the hunters were regrouping. Their ships hovered at the edge of the desert, engines whining under the twin moons. They were relentless, organized, and armed with advanced weapons designed to break through any barrier. But Cole had learned one thing in the desert. Raw power did not always win. Strategy, instinct, and courage mattered more than the biggest guns. "Cole," the taller woman said, her voice calm but urgent, "we need you to protect us. The key cannot be activated if they reach the entrance. Stand firm." Cole's jaw tightened. He had never believed in destiny, only in action and consequence. Yet now, standing in front of the glowing temple, he felt part of something bigger than himself. He nodded. "I won't let them through. Not while I breathe." Plasma blasts tore through the desert outside, striking the temple walls. Sparks flew, metal groaned, and the force rattled the ground. Cole fired back, moving like a shadow, dodging energy bolts and taking cover behind stone pillars. He could see the women inside, hands raised over the key, chanting in a language that vibrated with life. One hunter broke from cover, sprinting across the desert toward the temple. Cole fired a shot, striking the hunter's armor and sending him sprawling. Another hunter tried to flank them, but the temple's energy surged outward, forming a barrier that repelled their approach. Cole realized the building itself was alive, reacting to the key and the bloodline protecting it. Inside, the women's chant intensified. The weaker woman held the star map, tracing glowing lines across it. Symbols on the walls responded, pulsing and aligning with the key's energy. Cole felt a hum in his bones, a resonance that made him dizzy but focused. The key was awakening, and he could feel its power, even if he didn't fully understand it. "Cole!" the taller woman shouted, her voice rising over the hum. "We need the final step. Protect the entrance." Cole nodded, scanning the desert. Hunters continued to advance, but the temple's energy slowed them. Sparks and waves of light struck their ships, forcing some to retreat while others were caught in blasts of raw energy. Cole's revolver cracked, plasma bolts flying, hitting anything that came too close. He moved with precision, every shot calculated, every step deliberate. Hours passed, the battle outside relentless. Cole's arms ached, his lungs burned, and yet he did not falter. The women worked tirelessly with the key, their chants weaving a protective spell that pulsed through the temple walls. The glow intensified, radiating outward in waves that forced the hunters back. Finally, the taller woman raised her hands high. "Now, Cole, stand ready." Cole positioned himself at the threshold, body tense, every sense alert. The key's energy flowed through the room, through the women, and into him. It was not his power, yet it felt like it. A surge of courage, clarity, and connection filled him. He realized that this moment, this fight, was not just about survival. It was about choice, about protecting life, about breaking rules to do what was right. The hunters made one final push. Their leader, a tall figure in black armor with a helmet that glowed like molten metal, charged toward the temple, plasma rifle blazing. Cole fired, striking the ground near the leader, forcing him to duck. Sparks flew as energy clashed against the temple's barrier. The taller woman began the final chant. Light flowed from her hands into the key, and the pedestal glowed brighter than the twin moons. Energy arced outward, forming golden waves that struck the hunters' ships and armor. Some ships were disabled instantly, crashing into the desert. Others were forced to retreat, their engines screaming. Cole could see the hunters' determination waver. "Cole!" the weaker woman shouted. "Now, the final push." Cole fired at anything that moved, keeping the hunters at bay. Then he felt it. A surge of energy, a pull toward the key. The glow intensified, and in that moment, Cole understood the key's purpose. It was not a weapon. It was a shield, a protector of balance, and it recognized those who sought to misuse it. The energy flowed outward, enveloping the temple and the surrounding desert in a golden wave. The hunters screamed as the light struck them, disarming and incapacitating them without killing. Cole lowered his revolver, amazed. The key had done what he could not, protect life while defeating the threat. Inside, the taller woman collapsed to her knees, exhausted but smiling. The weaker woman hugged her, relief flooding her face. Cole approached, feeling the weight of the moment settle over him. "You did it," he said quietly. The taller woman looked at him, her glowing eyes softening. "No, Cole. We did it. Together. You protected us when you didn't have to. That is why the key responded to you. You are part of this now." Cole swallowed, a strange warmth in his chest. He had lived by rules, by law, by survival. Yet here, in the glow of the key, he understood something he had never admitted. Some rules were meant to be broken, especially when life, hope, and the future of the stars were at stake. The desert outside fell silent. The hunters had retreated, their ships disabled or destroyed. The twin moons cast a silver light over the golden glow of the temple. Cole stepped outside with the women, the cool desert wind brushing against his face. He looked at the stars, bright and infinite above him, and felt something he had not felt in years: connection, purpose, and belonging. The taller woman placed a hand on the key. "It is safe now. The balance restored. But the frontier will never be the same. The key has chosen its guardians, and you are one of them." Cole frowned, uncertain. "Guardians? Me?" "Yes. You risked everything. You broke your rules for the right reasons. That is more than law, more than survival. That is courage." Cole looked at the women, then at the key. He realized that his life, his solitude, and his rules had changed forever. The frontier was no longer a place of just survival. It was a place of purpose, of bonds, and of choices that mattered beyond any single life. The weaker woman looked up at him. "What now?" Cole smiled faintly. "Now we make sure the key stays safe. We protect what matters. And we ride forward, together. The stars are wide and the frontier endless, but we will face it together." Cole looked at Red Dust Station in the distance, a tiny dot on the desert horizon, and then back at the temple, glowing softly. He felt the weight of his choices, the rules he had broken, and the lives he had saved. He felt alive, more alive than he had ever been. As the twin moons rose higher, the three of them walked from the temple into the desert. Cole's plasma revolver hung at his side, ready, but he did not feel the need to fire. The key's energy lingered, a silent guardian. The hunters were gone, and the women's secret, and the balance of the stars, was safe. Cole Harding had broken his rules. He had risked his life. He had trusted two strangers from a distant past who carried the future in their blood. And in doing so, he had found something he had not realized he had been missing: hope, purpose, and connection. The desert stretched before them, red and endless, alive with possibilities. The stars above sparkled, vast and infinite. Cole glanced at the women, their glowing eyes soft in the moonlight. "Let's ride," he said, and together they stepped forward, guardians of the key, defenders of balance, and pioneers on a frontier where the rules no longer defined them, only their courage, their choices, and the bond that had grown between them. The stars whispered their approval. The galaxy had changed, and Cole Harding had changed with it.